Ladies and gentlemen, Inter Milan's doing a madness, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about Chelsea news, the latest that is circulating around. And there's two bits of news that I really want to focus on and really delve deep into it. There are other news that we'll touch on, but two particular pieces of news that I think needs our attention. One being this about Mateo Kovacic, and the other one being about Mason Mount, which we have to elaborate on today.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. First up, breaking. Chelsea have accepted that they are likely to lose Mateo Kovacic this summer amid interest in the midfielder from Bayern Munich, Manchester City, and Man United. This is coming from Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, the people that Matt Law worked with. So you got to take it with some sort of consideration. There is no indication an agreement will be reached with the Croatian international over a contract extension. The situation is unlikely to change before the end of the season. So I believe he's got 2 more seasons left. At the end of this season, there might be one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something like that. Or maybe at the end of this season, there'll be 2 seasons left. So this is the situation. Our new ownership, the new board, anyone that has 1 year left, 2 years left, they really definitely don't want a particular player to reach 1 year remaining in their contract before knowing what the future holds for that particular player, whether there is a contract extension coming, whether they're going to be sold. So really, the situation gets cracking when there's 2 seasons left in your contract, which I think is the case with Kovacic at the moment. Look, with Mateo Kovacic, let's be honest, he's been injury prone in recent times. He's missed quite a lot of games last season, this season as well. So there is a niggling factor there in terms of his injuries. And secondly, he's been inconsistent. Last year as well, he was inconsistent. This season as well, he's been inconsistent. Crazy part is when he goes to international football, he seems to do well for Croatia. So now I don't know whether he's a little bit fed up with the Chelsea situation, consistently changing managers. He's seen quite a lot of managers, man. He's seen Maurizio Sarri. He's seen Frank Lampard. He's seen Thomas Tuchel. He's seen Graham Potter. He's now seen Frank Lampard again. So I can understand the frustration. I feel personally he's one of those players that really got hurt or lost a taste for Chelsea Football Club when Thomas Tuchel got sacked. He was really connected to Thomas Tuchel. Look, I like his skill set, being able to be press resistant from deep and being able to build up from deep and break through the midfield of the opposition midfield at times and drive deep into the opposition half. But the issue remains. There are some times where the final third execution is not there. The decision-making is there. I feel like Kovacic has the decision-making. It's just the execution at times not there. There are certain times when he does execute, players have let him down. He should have had a lot more assists. But there is a clear flaw in his shooting technique. You know, he should be scoring a lot more goals from where he is positioned at times in the field. Look, overall, how do I feel about this? Maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to revamp. Enzo Fernandez, we've got the ball-playing midfielder there. We've got, N'Golo Kante. Hopefully he signs the contract extension, so we have a leader there. Kovacic is a leader as well. Recently, he was a captain. I wouldn't mind keeping him. It's just, look, if push comes to shove, and if he is not fully committed to our future under Pochettino, no problems. I think it's time we get someone like Romeo Lavia. We get someone like, I don't know whether Declan Rice is going to be feasible, but, Ugarte or even Caicedo. So we do need a proper midfield rebuild. I mean, if I'm thinking right now, so you've got Enzo Fernandez, you've got N'Golo Kante, probably one of Mount or Conor Gallagher will stay. Let's say Mount, and we'll talk about Mount after this. And then we definitely need a couple of midfielders. We need a defensive midfielder, and maybe we need a Romeo Lavia, like a cheap sort of player that we can get, hopefully, because Southampton's getting relegated. Players like Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Oh, and don't forget, how can we forget? Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka should be considered in midfield. Players like Chukwuemeka should be considered in midfield. So there's that. We do have young players. And then don't forget Caesar, or maybe Chasure Kasedi, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's there as well. He's on loan with Reading. Whether he gets an opportunity straight away, I don't know. Andre Santos, don't forget about him. So look, there's plenty of options available. And maybe this is the time to get rid of Kovacic. I can understand the links from Bayern Munich, Thomas Tuchel being there. Thomas Tuchel really liked Kovacic, man. So there could be a situation brewing there. Manchester City, Gundogan potentially leaving to Barcelona on a free, I believe. So Manchester City could look into that. And don't be surprised if Kovacic goes to Manchester City and totally becomes a beast of a player. I don't know whether he's ever going to get to the Gundogan levels. Gundogan, for me, is probably a superior player than Kovacic, because he's got the goal-scoring ability and he can play in multitude of positions very effectively. Gundogan is a 6, 8, 10, you name it, he can do it all. And he's got the finesse. Manchester United's another one, could potentially do with a player like Kovacic for build-up. I think will be fantastic for Erik ten Hag's style of football that he was playing at Ajax. So look, I personally don't want him to go to another Premier League team. If there is an opportunity to go to Bayern Munich, let's do that. But I'm open for this situation. Let me know what you think about Mateo Kovacic, ladies and gentlemen. Pochettino has identified Mount as a player who can play an integral role next season. Co-controlling owner Todd Boehly met with Mount's representative in recent weeks, raising hope a deal can be reached. But as things stand, there is no agreement in place. This is from Sami Mokbel. And it further goes on to say nothing. That's about it on that one. I do want to elaborate on this. Now, what are the repercussions? What is happening with the Mount situation? Why aren't Chelsea doing, listening to Mount's demands? Okay, let's put it this way. First of all, I think Mason Mount's a very good player. Does he still have room for improvement? A lot of improvement? I agree, he does. I don't think at the moment as an 8 or even as a 10. I think those are the two areas that he could potentially play. I don't really think he's a double pivot player. As an 8 and a 10, there are certain attributes he does need to improve on. More specifically, I feel in the build-up, he needs to be a lot more involved, and his vision. I feel like he can be someone who can, look for those key passes a lot more, and not just build up the key passes through set pieces or the odd here and there open play ones. I'm talking about on a naturally become a very, very good, passing player with excellent passing ability. I'm not saying now all of a sudden become Cesc Fabregas, no. But if you're going to play number 8, number 10, you've got to have quicker passing. You've got to have those threaded passes. You've got to find those, key passes to the forwards, whether it's wingers, the strikers, whoever. So I feel like the passing area is where Mason Mount can improve. Obviously, shooting he can, but shooting, his technique is fantastic. But every now and then he does fluff clear-cut chances as well. We've seen it last season. We've seen it this season as well. That's something that can be improved as well, no doubts. But so the pros, he's potentially a leader. He's Chelsea through and through, no doubts about that. He definitely cares about the football club, and you do need players that care about the football club. His work rate is fantastic. If he gets his mojo back again, I think under Pochettino, he can be a very, very important player. Now, the issue is if you succumb to his demands, and his demands from his perspective, I understand. From a footballing sense, from a Chelsea perspective, I feel like Mason Mount should be somewhere around 180 to 200k. I think that is probably the right price for Mason Mount's wage. At the moment, he's on 70, 75k, which is obviously, it's an insult to his name, but that's the contract that he was on initially, right? From the academy, well, when he first joined from the academy to Chelsea under Frank Lampard. So that was his first contract. Now, of course, had the previous regime still been around, he should have had the, contract extension done and dusted with them. He would have got the money. He would have got the bag. But now you got Reece James on 250k. You got Ben Chilwell potentially around 190, 200k. You've got Kai Havertz on exorbitant amount of money. So I can understand why Mason Mount wants this. But if you go ahead and submit to his demands and you give him 250k, you give him the image rights, you give him all of that, and you lower his contract term, you once again set a precedent, right? You once again set a precedent. Our wage structure is something that we're trying to work on under this new regime to bring it down to normality, because the previous regime was willy-nilly just handing out money, and it was creating chaos for us. Players like Kai Havertz, players like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, they don't want to leave now because they're on beautiful amount of money. We don't want to create this situation. Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, all of these are on very, very basic wages. For us, it's crazy, but basic in the sense, Enzo Fernandez is on 97k per week. Mudryk is on 97k 250K per week. This is the, touted price that's going around. You don't want Mason Mount to be so high in the region where next up, someone like, let's say, Enzo Fernandez or even Mudryk, you best believe both of these players will explode sometime in their Chelsea career. They will explode. And the next thing you want is these players becoming 250K players or even 300K. You don't want to have plethora of players in your team on 250, 300K, that region. You just don't want to have that, especially when we don't have European football next season. Our money is getting drained out. We are worried about financial fair play as well. We do have a stadium that we want to rebuild. There's not going to be too much money to dish out in the future. So we do have to think about all of this, especially the precedent that you set. So this is where I feel like the stalemate can be found. I know Pochettino probably really wants Mason Mount, and rightly so. I think he is a Poch player, in terms of intensity, in terms of passion and desire. Why not? Do you know what I mean? Under Pochettino. So, but how do we come to a compromise? That is the big question. And this is the conundrum of Mason Mount. Do you submit to his demands? Do you submit? Because if you submit to his demands, one, you're going to have to hope that he becomes the player that you think he's going to be. He better become a absolute non-negotiable starter. Right now, I think Mason Mount, at the moment, I don't know if he's absolute starter for Chelsea Football Club. Do you know what I mean? When he's fit, obviously right now he's not fit, but when he's fit, I don't think he's an absolute starter. When you got the likes of João Felix, if he does potentially stay, or even if it's not, Nkunku's coming in, don't forget. Do you know what I mean? Where's Mason Mount going to play? If Pochettino plays a 4-2-3-1, for argument's sake, Mount's not going to play in a double pivot. Mount's going to play up front. Nkunku most certainly will play just behind a striker, and we're looking for a striker as well. If the 4-3-3, then again, where does Nkunku play? Does he play out wide? Does he play up front? Maybe in a 4-3-3, Mason Mount does get an opportunity. But then if it's Enzo Fernandez, defensive midfielder, where does N'Golo Kante play? If we want Enzo Fernandez to be one of the eights, along with N'Golo Kante being one of the eights, then the defensive midfielder comes in. Where does Mason Mount feature in the midfield? So I know you're going to say, well, N'Golo Kante is not someone who's going to feature match-to-match basis. But next season, we don't have that many matches to play. We do not have that many matches to play. More than you can believe. More than you can believe. So lots of conundrum in this situation. Once again, let me know about Mason Mount. This is the two stories, the Kovacic and Mason Mount. I really wanted to focus and encapsulate exactly where we're sitting and why there is this uncertainty, I suppose. But you let me know how you feel about that. Now, let's whiz through the rest of the news, ladies and gentlemen. Some members of the Chelsea squad have sought urgent clarification with regards to the club's plans for next season amid concerns that their careers are stagnating at Stamford Bridge. Surprise, surprise. Of course, your careers are stagnating and you should be concerned. But it's the same people, your Pulisic's, your Ziyech, your Kalamatanadois, who will come back. Many more. Aubameyang can leave as well. Romelu Lukaku can leave as well on loan, whatever the case is. If we can sell him, fantastic. Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Many players. Please, time to leave. Time to say goodbye. We don't need to see much more. So, and maybe there are some other new players. Maybe Chalobah is one of them that's thinking, am I going to get game time under Pochettino? Knowing there is Badiashile, there is Wesley Fofana, Levi Colwell is potentially coming back. Look, we need to sort a lot of things out. And I'm okay. This summer window, I'm excited. I'm going to be singing for players that are going to leave as opposed to players coming in, because we need a lot of players gone. It's no secret Chelsea are searching for a long-term midfield partner for Enzo Fernandez. We should not rule out Declan Rice, while the likes of Yusuf Fofana, Edson Alvarez, Romeo Lavia, Manu Kone, and Moses Caicedo have all been mentioned behind the scenes. I'm not sure why Ugate's name is not mentioned here. I think Ugate is someone we should really, really think about. Ugate for Sporting Lisbon is someone seriously needs to be considered. But rest of the names, I don't mind. Edson Alvarez, I've seen him a few times for Ajax. To be honest, I don't know, man. There are certain times where he looks really good. Certain times he looks a little bit, his awareness is not always there. He seems to not have that engine as well to run all 90 minutes. Saw him in the World Cup. I don't think I was that impressed with him in the World Cup either for Mexico. Romeo Lavia, someone who can partner Enzo Fernandez in midfield, but I still think I need a defensive midfield. I don't really think Romeo Lavia is truly a defensive midfield unless we mold him into one. Manu Kone, a lot of people saying he is proper defensive midfielder. Moses Caicedo would be sensational for us. I think it would be fantastic if we can get him. Declan Rice, of course, being the number one selection. Yusuf Fofana's name has been thrown about from Monaco, I believe. This is from Lawrence Stewart, maybe, his connection with Monaco, one of our directors, but we'll see. There is already regret at Chelsea over the way Romelu Lukaku's season-long loan to Inter Milan with its relatively paltry 6.9 million loan fee was handled last year. I'm watching the Champions League match, Inter Milan versus AC Milan. It's about to end. Inter's done a madness 2-0. The first half, blockbuster from Inter Milan. Wow. But Lukaku didn't start. Once again, Edin Dzeko is being favoured ahead of Romelu Lukaku. So I'm not really sure whether Lukaku is going to hang about in Inter Milan and whether Inter Milan wants him or not. But, there's already regret at Chelsea over the way Romelu Lukaku's season-long loan to Inter with its relatively paltry 6.9 million loan fee was handled last year. I mean, what are we trying to say here? How did we handle Lukaku last year? How did we handle him? How could we have handled him? He self-sabotaged the living daylights out of Chelsea Football Club. Are we kind of indirectly trying to blame Thomas Tuchel or the Chelsea regime that was there last time around? Is the new regime trying to blame, the people that were in charge last season? I don't think you can blame them. I don't think you can blame Thomas Tuchel. I definitely don't think you can blame the old regime either. Excuse me. And as I said, Romelu Lukaku brought it all on him. He brought it all on him. He destroyed the situation. He started complaining. He's the one who, called up that interview. To sit here and now say, we regret the way we handled, Chelsea handled it. And I don't think there is any regret, man. I think we handled it very well. I truly do feel we handled it well. Romelu Lukaku absolutely killed it for himself to the point where majority of the fan base don't want this particular player back. But don't be surprised if he's back. Do not be surprised if he's back. Inter Milan, AC Milan versus Inter just ended. Inter has won 2-0, by the way. Big victory for them. Harry Kane, from a culture point of view, we've been too up and down over the last few years. We need to discuss some of the standards around the team and the training ground, which we need to get back to. We had those standards in place when Mauricio Pochettino was here. I mean, big praise from Harry Kane. So hopefully some of this culture will be back at Chelsea Football Club. I mean, we've lost our identity this season, and it's sad to see, honestly, and it needs to be worked by Mauricio Pochettino to get that Chelsea culture back. Mauricio Pochettino is a believer in human touch and would often greet players and staff with a bear hug. He and his staff set about changing the culture of Tottenham with social events, meals out, and insisting on morning handshakes with an atmosphere of respect, team bonding, and initiation songs of new signings, also birthday celebration, and seeing families of staff were not uncommon at the training base. I mean, I like it. I know it sounds a little bit mushy stuff, but you know what? These things matter. And if they're not being done at Chelsea at the moment, well, bring it back. At the end of the day, there needs to be a human touch. It does sound a bit funny reading this, but there has to be some human touch. And if Pochettino can bring that back and bring the players close together in order to fight for each other, in order to have that chemistry for each other, why not, man? Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, it can be revealed that Chelsea will secure millions of pounds in extra in revenue if Mark Guéhi leaves Crystal Palace this summer. It's understood that the previous regime secured a 20% sell-on clause. Wow, I mean, interesting. I thought there was a first refusal from us. I didn't know there was a 20% sell-on clause, which is great if Mark Guéhi finds himself in a good move and Crystal Palace can get good amount of money out of it. 20% comes our way. So once again, cha-ching, we are making money out of our ex-academy players. I've not watched too much of Crystal Palace, and I don't think there's been too much hype about Mark Guéhi this time around, but we know what type of a defender he is. He's a quality defender. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Until next time, see ya.